Dude, that was so good.
Thank you.
Sitting right beside here, the energy was insane. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Riley. Give yourselves a virtual applause to
All right.
Jim Riley. So, Jim, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself, who you are, how long you've been playing for, because I'm sure there might be a couple people out there that haven't seen you
Absolutely,
yet.
and I am glad to be meeting everybody in the Drumeo world. This is such a fantastic forum for us all to get together and learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
So my name is Jim Riley. I grew up in Natick, Massachusetts. I started playing drums when I was 12. Before that, my inspiration to play drums was actually, I saw a Kiss Alive 2 commercial.
Yeah.
For, obviously Kiss's Kiss Alive 2 record. And I just kind of freaked out when I saw Peter Criss on that drum riser, kind of rising up into the air, that cat down there, drums from here to here. I said, that's the job I want. And so, I begged my parents to let me start playing. Started playing when I was in the 6th grade.
Yeah.
Studied all the way through high school. Was lucky enough to play in some great organizations like the Greater Boston Youth Symphony and those sort of things there. Went to college at the University of North Texas, where I majored in music education, which is my other passion besides playing.
Yeah.
And got my degree in music ed, and I moved to Nashville in '97.
Okay.
Moved to Nashville in '97. I got very lucky, scored my first gig. My first really big gig in about 11 months. I was playing with a guy named Mark Chestnut for 2 years. I was also doing some kind of rockabilly, punkabilly dates with Hank Williams III. Kind of gave both of those up when some friends of mine called me that had just gotten a record deal and said, hey, we'd really like for you to come out on the road. And that was Rascal Flatts, and that was, 14 and a half years ago.
You're still doing that?
Yeah.
In fact, he was supposed to be doing a Rascal Flatts show today,
Yeah.
but it canceled, so we had to fly him out separately. But thank you so much for coming out here.
Absolutely.
The members are been excited. I mean, we have seen Jim Riley at a Drumeo Edge lesson. About a year ago, he came in and did a lesson called Fills That Work. And when we thought about bringing him back again, I thought, well, the natural progression from your last lesson would be Grooves That Work.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about today. Before I get into the lesson, obviously, I just want to thank your sponsors, Ludwig, for bringing this beautiful kit in here.
Ludwig sent this up special for the Drumeo world. This is Ludwig Classic Maple with the new Atlas mounts, which are really groovy, great drums. Sabian cymbals, Canada's own.
Yeah.
Remo for supplying the wonderful heads I've used for my entire career. I'm just really grateful to have them along with Direct Sound sponsoring this event today.
Very cool. Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I said, you're always welcome here to come back up. Vader sticks, I was going to say. Don't forget those.
Yeah, they're my bros.
Very cool. Also, you guys, if anybody here is watching and doesn't know anything about Drumeo, we have a thing called Drumeo Edge where we do lessons every single day. And we actually already have a lesson in the Edge archives called Fills That Work by Jim. It's actually one of the top watched lessons inside of Edge. I haven't told you that yet.
No, you didn't. I'm very happy about that because that lesson, along with parts of this lesson, are really very simple, but sometimes it's the simplest things that really make the difference when you're talking about somebody. Because I'm sure the biggest question you'd probably have is, how do you get from being a drummer in your local band and working on that kind of stuff to getting to the next level?
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I learned the most in my journey so far is that as a very proficient drummer, I've found that there are a million things that I could play.
Yeah.
And really, the thing that I've found that separates the, even the advanced player from the true professional is the true professional absolutely knows they take everything they possibly could play and they play only what they should play.
Yeah, because these guys, they can play some insane stuff.
Absolutely.
But what makes them better is the fact that they pick and choose.
Yeah,
Play
and
to
so
the song.
it's all about the way that you think about it. Now, Nashville, for example, is a very songwriter-driven town, and it's all about the song. So as a drummer, I really have to think song first when I'm coming up with my parts.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I'm playing in a verse and I ask myself, well, what's happening in a verse, song-wise? And the answer is that the songwriter is telling a story. So since the songwriter is telling a story, it's our job to stay out of the songwriter's way. And so we start to A, choose patterns that are appropriate, but B, also choose voicings that are appropriate. And so,
and that's the essence of this whole lesson.
Yeah.
is making sure, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I just wanted to say that fills that worked was your first one.
Yep.
Grooves that work is the progression. And
Here we are.
Yeah, and here we are. But if you guys do want to check out that one, we're also filming a course that's just for Edge members as well with Jim Riley. We're actually calling that one Expanding Your Drumming Vocabulary.
It's fun.
It's so far, it's turning out so good. We're going to release that later on this year. But go to Drumeo.com, or if you want to try it for free, Drumeo.com/trial, and you can get on to try a free month, absolutely no problem, and give it a check out. Check out Jim Riley's first lesson. But anyway, let's get into this. If you guys like what you're seeing here too, you can always go to JimRileyMusic.com and follow him. You can find his Facebook page, his YouTube page, his Instagram, and everything like that. So you can follow him that way, or you can even check out YouTube.com. Just type in Jim Riley. He'll pop right up at the very beginning. The song that you introed that with, that is a song from one of your packs called The Nashville Number System.
Well, yeah, actually, that is from a book that's actually called Song Charting Made Easy.
Okay.
I put that out with Hal Leonard. And it's about the Nashville number system, which if people are more curious about the Nashville number system, they can actually go to thenashvillenumbersystem.com.
There you go.
And check it out. But in short, the Nashville number system is a very musical way of thinking about the songs that we're playing. So,
yeah.
like if we're thinking about a 1 chord, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going 1, 5, 4, 5. So what happens as a drummer when you're writing these charts is instead of counting bars, like the verse is 16 bars long and you're sitting there going 14, 2, 3, 4, 15, 2, you're actually sitting there listening
to the chords.
So you're trading counting internally for listening externally. And that for me is enough of a reason to get into it. And it really helps you dissect what we're doing right now, which is you look at a Nashville number system chart and you can clearly see all the sections. Now, when you think about the sections of a song, I like to think about them like the foundation of a house. Now, I'm talking about a house like mine. I got a basement.
Okay.
I'm a drummer. I got to have a basement.
Gotta have a basement,
in your dream house anyways, get a basement. It's beautiful. So that's where my drum studio is. I've got a studio called Drum Dojo, and I actually teach regular lessons there and Skype lessons and whatever. But
so it's the foundation of
if you look at the foundation of a house, like before the house is built, and you look at the drum parts, so you'll notice that the foundation isn't just a slab. It's very detailed. You can see the outline of every room in the house. And so, what the house is going to look like pretty much before you put it up on top of it. And that's what I want my drum parts to represent. So one of the ways that I do that is with voicings and picking the most appropriate voicing. So we were talking about the verse. Well, the verse of a song is when they're telling the story. So I tend to use voicings that are less obtrusive, like hi-hat, rim, four tom. The reason that doesn't interfere with the vocals is because the vocal range is up here and four tom is down here. Vocal range is here, cymbals is right there. So you have to really watch about the voicings. So what I did was I came up with some patterns here. The first thing is, of all the crazy things that we might want to study, one of the things that's most valuable is just breaking it down, like I said, to the stuff that's most important. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play you a very simple, solid groove, and we'll talk about it.
Sure.
Ready?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of discipline sometimes to just play what the music requires. But when you look at the high-level professional, that's the decision that they're willing to make. They're always willing to play time. They love playing time.
And by the way, guys, sorry, this is on the PDF. This is number 1. This is just the main groove. Phrase
You're keeping me on track, man. You got to keep me on point here.
That's what I'm here for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So one thing to note about that is my approach to the kit, like the way that I'm getting the sounds. Every 6th grade kid can probably play. It's just the way that I'm approaching it, the way I'm getting the sound. There's a couple of unique things that I wanted to talk about. The first is the bass drum. Now with the bass drum, I'm doing what we all call burying the beater. So that means, like as I'm sitting here talking to you, the beater just stays in the head. This is my rest position. Now it's kind of a really good workout for the back of your leg right there, but you'll develop the muscles, and then as you play the groove, and you bury it back in there. The reason why I went to do that is because I started listening to old recordings of myself, and you'd start to solo things up, and you'd hear, and that's because for me, I would let the beater bounce, and then the weight of my foot would sometimes make these little extra ghost notes.
Yeah.
So burying the beater eliminates that for me. And I feel like I get a good quality sound. The next one would be the snare drum. On the snare drum, I'm playing a rim shot on all my backbeats. I've got the beat of the stick in the center of the drum. And I'm not burying it in, because that'll change the sound in a negative way. So I've got the beat of the stick in the center of the drum, playing a rim shot. That way, when we go on to our ghost notes here in a little while, we've really made a clear difference between the accent and the inner beats, which we will get into.
Okay.
So what we're going to talk about next is taking that groove that we were using and applying some different voicings to it. And so,
sorry to cut you off, but this is going. I really like that analogy you talked about with the foundation.
Yeah.
And how every floor on top of that is like the vocals, the bass, the drums, or the guitar and all that. So your analogy, which I thought was really cool, is if you tear the whole house down, you can still see the structure of the song just based off of your drum part.
Absolutely.
And how you change that up is by changing the voicings.
Yeah, so the voicings are mainly talking about the right-hand voicings.
Okay.
So I'm going to go through a series of voicings, and then we're going to talk about where I find each of these to be appropriate.
Cool.
So I'm going to play groove 1, and each time I repeat it, I'm going to change the voicing.
Okay.
Here we go. Ready? 1, 2,
that could have been a song in and of itself right there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if the sections lined up right. So now let me talk about how I would use some of these. Like this closed section we talked about. Using the closed hi-hat's great for verses because it stays out of the vocalist's way. Choruses, this open hi-hat works really great. This, incidentally, also works great for verses. Once you get to things like the ride cymbal, I usually, it depends on the song. Sometimes I could use it for a chorus. Sometimes I could use it for the solo of a song. It's really great for the solo of a song because the articulation's there, but it doesn't, and the energy's there, but it doesn't get too far, it doesn't get too far out of hand. Now, like things like the crash cymbal, you have to use them pretty specifically. Like on that song, I used it on the bridge.
Yeah.
That song was one of the songs from my Nashville Number System book, which, like I said, you can check that one out at thenashvillenumbersystem.com.
Yep.
There's a preview of the book that you can look at there. It's got one of the play-alongs there as well. But on that song, the bridge went really high energy, so I went to the crash. But if you want to change the energy, maybe that it's not such a high energy, you could actually go to the four tom. So you're on the chorus. And that can make a great part for a bridge. So there's no right or wrong about where you put these.
Yeah.
You just have to be asking yourself, is the part appropriate for the song? And if you're making the right decision for the song, then you're making the right decision.
And that's the big thing that separates a lot of advanced drummers from the pros.
Absolutely. And because frankly, there are some guys that are pros that can't do a bunch of fantastically amazing things. And, they get by because their musicality, they make fantastic musical decisions and they play within their ability level. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
okay, so changing your voice is a great way to be more musical with what you're playing. Now let's get into actually talking about some grooves that work. Now grooves that you have just over the years and years and years of experience that you have, the grooves that really are versatile, everybody loves, are
Well, there are a million grooves that work. So what I've done here is I'm giving you some elements to build those grooves that work. And one of the ways, like when you'd listen to records like back in the 80s, it was all about isolation. You'd talk to, guys like John Robinson, and sometimes they would have them record the bass drum, then the snare drum, then the toms, then the cymbals all separate because they were really wanting to isolate everything.
Sure, yeah.
And things have gotten back to a much more homogeneous space. And in these days of like high definition recording, there's actually a lot of room for drum details. The producer is really keen to that. And so what I've done is I've outlined some different ghost notes that I use in many of my grooves, and we can kind of freelance a little bit. And I'll show you some grooves that have that. Even that groove in Before has some of these ones.
Okay.
That we're talking about. I mean, these are the elements that I use. I basically broke down the ghost patterns that I use. So the first thing we have to do, and we're going to be starting with number 2, but the first thing we have to do is define what is a ghost note. Now, you've all heard the term ghost note. The idea of what a ghost note is just like ghosts. They're, kind of felt and not heard, ooh, right? So you kind of feel them. So like we think about like the most famous ghost note groove ever. Those notes are felt.
Yep.
And to be able to do that, you've got to make sure that you're playing your accents high, inner beats low. So what I've got for you in number 2 is accents on 2 and 4 with ghost notes coming on the E of what is that? The of 2 and the E of 3. Yeah. This is doing it on the fly here.
Yeah.
So hard to explain for me, easy to play. So here it is. 1 and 2 and ready and go. So that's a great groove, and those 16th notes are going to define the the substructure of the groove, because if you play that same groove in a 16th triplet matrix, like we're in that hip hop kind of. But if we go back to where we were, which is ready and go. So those are really going to help define the substructure, of the matrix of the tune. And so you want to make sure you're playing those accents high, inner beats down low. Now, another one that I use is a drag. So it's the same concept, only it's... And the drag, I like to say, belongs to the bass drum note. Just like if I'm on the snare drum and I play, that drag is notated with this note. So here it's... So I'm going to play number 3. Ready? 1 and 2 and ready and go. Now, we've got our drags, we've got our ghost notes. We can combine the two to do what we've got in number 4, which is a combination of drags and ghost notes. Here it is. 1 and 2 and ready and go. Build a lot of variation there, and each time you change the voicing, you're really changing the groove. And I think that's sometimes people see something on a page and they go, okay, I'm going to play this groove, and they play it only on a closed hi-hat. And so I would encourage you to look through the entire universe of Drumeo material and go, how can I change the voicing on that and make it into something different?
Absolutely.
And you can change the substructure of all of these grooves and go into
like a swung.
Same thing with there. So let's see.
Now, one thing I'll say to this, and I remember falling guilty to this too, is I would look at these grooves, say I'm an intermediate drum, I would look at these grooves, I'm like, oh, I could play that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's so effective, and how you played it it's so much different than how I would play it. You just have such good note spacing and such good dynamic levels and stuff. So what do you say to those drummers who look at this and it's like, oh, those are basic beats?
Well, I'm a lot of this stuff that we're talking about is stuff that I'm covering in my new book that I've got coming out this fall, which is it's called Survival Guide for the Modern Drummer.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that at the end for sure.
Yeah. And the first chapter I've got is on these pop grooves.
Yeah.
And the one thing I have to say is exactly what you said, which is I say in the book, do not skip this section. I know you're going to be tempted to go, hey, let's go. And we need that song go, right?
Yeah,
we need the song go.
Yeah.
But we need this stuff maybe even more. Living in America, playing pop music, if you want to make a living,
Exactly.
So you need it all. And so that first chapter, I have to caution people, do not skip over this because this is the stuff that, like you can create commerce with your playing.
Yeah.
If people understand that you are the kind of drummer that gets it musically, that understands that, man, this guy really understands what it is to be a drummer in a band. He knows his role. And then when we give him a chance to shine, he can do that too. And that's what we're working on with the lessons that we're doing to expand our vocabulary. It's kind of the other side of this lesson that we're doing here. So to continue on, I've got some more basic ghost note patterns that I use. This one here is, we're looking at number 5.
Number 5,
It's 1. So what you really have to work on is this. And really, what it really comes down to is the ability to play an accent followed immediately by an unaccented note. Now, I'm usually a pretty, like technique-wise, I'm pretty staunch about keeping, you know, my fulcrum together. But occasionally when I get to some of these ghost notes, I actually let my finger come off. And the reason is because that'll actually kill the bounce of the stick. So playing a roll, this would do you very terribly. But to play an accent followed by a quiet interbeat, it actually helps a lot to stabilize that note.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I use that on that. So that comes off there, and then when I'm going, you know, to more intricate, it's staying on there the whole time.
Brilliant. Brilliant, yeah.
So this, once you get comfortable with that, you can add that in here and go. And so that one I use a lot. Now this one I used in the last tune. I used this in before.
Number 6 or number 5?
Number 6.
Number 6.
Numero 6.
Okay.
And this one, you're going to have a little bit of a hard time working on this at first, and then you'll get it. This is so what you got to be able to do is go. That's the weird part. So breaking down the treble spot. Add that to what I have on beat 2 of 5, I'd actually have some pretty cool language right there just by applying what we learned on 5 to what we learned on 6.
Yeah.
Now 7 is an interesting one because it's actually a ghost note that comes before the primary note. Now, for me, you know, I kind of think about like James Brown, funky drummer thing, and I also think about there's a really cool groove on a Fishbone record that goes. Show 'em where it's at. And that note is hard to work on, but you know, if you go, I'm using a little molar stroke. Molar stroke.
Up, down, up.
Yeah, you know, so,
Yeah.
so if we go purely to what's on 7, playing it in a 16th note matrix, this is what we've got. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
Now, the last 2 ghost note examples that I have on this lesson actually fall on the high, but I really think about them as ghost notes because we kind of have our primary notes here, and then we've got these and we're going to work on those individually. So when you look at 8, what I've got there, if you look at beat 1, I've got so that's not so hard to work on. So I'm going to play 8, 2 and 3 and 4. Add to it. And then finally, what we've got on 9, which is actually. So you got.
So
it's
good.
fun. It's fun elements to build with, and that's really how I approach groove making. I've got all of these little elements, and I think, what does the song require? I mean, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to listen to the bass part, and you're going to see, okay, how am I going to match up with the bass part? Am I going to completely mirror the bass part, or am I going to have a little bit of variation? But you come up with your part. And I'm using that there, and the grace notes, both the singles and the drags here. And that's how I go about creating the parts. And then if it's for a chorus, it might. Did you want me to play a song to demonstrate that?
In a second here, I just wanted to bring up two things.
You're the boss. You tell me, man.
I am not the boss on this lesson. I'm just facilitating and making sure things go. But one thing I just wanted to focus on, like we talked about in the beginning, don't skip this page type of thing, right? And it is funny how many drummers will go and try odd time, will go and try double bass stuff, will go and try all this before they're as comfortable as you. I mean, you sound so good with these just simple ideas, but they work.
Well, double bass and double pedal, there are things that you can't substitute. I mean, it's the only answer,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
There's no other way to do it. If you want to go. There's no other way to do it. But I really caution people to get in too far into double bass without working on the single bass. Now, one of the things we're talking about in the lessons is, like some things like one on the hands, two on the bass. And one of the coolest things you can do with that is sort of like that good times, bad times. And that, you're not going to get the same sound on doing it as a double bass thing. I can get a lot of power out of the single bass drum sound. You can notice that I'm doing kind of a swivel there. And the way that I think about that is like I'm dropping the stick and then I'm coming after it before. And that's kind of what I'm doing. It's like I'm sort of cutting off the angle on the pedal. And that's how I get the speed on that.
Unbelievable. Man, I would love to have you as a resident drumming instructor here at Drumeo. How about that?
I love the mountains.
You love the mountains around here. You're such a well-rounded drummer. That's what I love about you. I mean, you just bust it out on that double bass, and you play with Rascal Flatts. And is there any double bass even on any of the songs that you play?
This is our 15th tour. So
yeah.
Anything you could imagine, falls in there. We did a double drum solo in 2006 that was really fun, where the bass player and I did this lick at the end of a tune that was. And so that's kind of some, using some of that stuff in there. There's obviously using it, for some endings, some fills here occasionally, where it's it's appropriate. I think about double bass as a tool. I try to use it appropriately. There are guys that we know that are fantastic, and double bass is their calling card. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I don't do what they do.
Yeah.
So I try to, use double bass as a tool rather than as my thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on here. We've got quite a few people online watching, and I'm sure there's questions. And by the way, guys, if you do have any questions for Jim about grooves at work, about your own playing, or about some of the stuff that you saw him do, let us know. Get them in right now below the video. We might not get to them all as there is a ton of people watching, but I'm going to try and get to as many as I can.
Yeah, and for those that we don't get to, I mean, my website is really just a portal for you.
Yeah.
If you want to go to jimrileymusic.com, you can click on my Facebook page, become a subscriber there. Go to YouTube, become a subscriber there. I try to be very interactive with, with people. I kind of think of you all as, extensions of my drum dojo. Now, Drumeo is
an extension of the dojo.
We're all together, man.
Beautiful.
It's cool.
Well, while we get questions in and I organize that, why don't you play us another play along from your pack and or from your Nashville number system? Feelings Gone. This song.
Yeah. This is another tune from Song Charting Made Easy, which is available. You can find it at my website or at thenashvillenumbersystem.com. So these play-alongs are available as drumless tracks. As a matter of fact, there's actually bassless, guitarless, keyboardless.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
Very cool.
it's for all rhythm section players. But it's funny because I'm a drummer, and drummers, we have the best community of any instrumental group.
100%
It's
agree.
not even guitar players and
instruments.
bass players will tell you the same thing. The piano players, they don't even know each other at all.
Yeah.
So we have our community, and so the drumming community is actually really taken to my book. We've actually sold out of the first printing, went into the second printing.
Good for you,
which is great. And that's also available digitally in the iBooks and all that kind of stuff. But this is one of the tunes on there, and I have to mention that the last tune and this tune feature my lovely wife, Jamie, actually on vocals.
No way. I didn't know that was your wife.
Yep, that's my wife. And
Awesome.
and also, these are both tunes that I wrote specifically for the book.
Dude, that's great. Let's check it out. Get your questions in while you play to it. Do you have it loaded up? Ready to go?
Yeah, pretty close here. Let's go. I'm ready to rock. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All my life, all I've heard is people telling me
Daniel J. Jones says, I'm tired just watching you play.
Yeah, well, I'm tired doing it, you know.
Yeah, well, catch your breath. By the way, your wife has an incredible voice.
Yeah, she's pretty fantastic. I mean, that's how we met, kind of met through music. And
catch your breath, man.
yeah, this for me was a great project to do because it was the audio for the book, but in a sense, it was almost like a family record too,
Totally,
you know?
yeah, totally.
So she actually sang 4 of the tunes, and I actually sang the other 6.
Awesome. Like, Jim's got a great voice. Before the lesson, he was showing me some of the stuff that he's done some arrangements for, some a cappella stuff, and it's like, what, 8 or 9 of your voice?
We got an 8-voice thing that we just did. If you looked up like the CMA Fest from 2014, that was on ABC. I think there's some remnants of it sitting around on YouTube right now. There's we actually do a cover of Happy, Pharrell's tune, and Pharrell actually knew about it. I mean, he approved of it. You know, it was a pretty cool thing. But yeah, you know, there's a guy beatboxing, there's a guy singing the bass part. There's 3 of us singing harmony. There's 2 guys doing a doo-wop, and there's the lead. So
yeah, it's really cool. And you programmed all that stuff and composed it all yourself.
Yeah,
so you got some crazy skill when it comes to everything music, I guess.
Well, I was really blessed with a good ear. So, you know, it made it more of a burden for me to want to write that book on the Nashville number system because I wanted to try to bring that thought process of musicality to as many people as I could. You know, it wasn't really, you know, for me, it wasn't about the money because I made the audio like, you know, almost like too good. Yeah. You know, because I don't care. I was just like, I just want to make it great. And then, you know, the way I think about it, you do great stuff, you know, the money will take care of itself later.
I love that philosophy. Well, let's get to some questions because we're running out of time. And we will go a little bit over just because of the amount of questions we have here. Cool. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
There's the cowbell. All right. Tones says, hey, Jim, so good to see you. You look great and sound unbelievable. He says, when you're in Dallas, please let me know. Regards, Tony Tones Giambri. Sorry, I don't know if you know him or not, but he says...
Yeah. You know, when I'm in Dallas, you know, I'm at Lone Star Percussion a lot.
Yep.
You know, I've got friends that work over there. You know, I went to the University of North Texas, and so I have so many friends in that North Texas area. So, you know, in Dallas, you can always look for me. You know, if you see that I'm coming through, you know, check with the guys at Lone Star. I may be doing a clinic there, or maybe teaching private lessons. It frequently happens. So hopefully we'll see them there.
Cool. Scotty Aldrich says, hey, thanks so much for coming out to Drumeo again, Jim. It's always great to see you. Silly question. He says, I'm having trouble flamming my bass drum. It seems that I'm slightly late a lot. Other than just shut up and practice, would changing the angle of my beater or anything that you recommend help? And I think he's talking about when he plays the kick.
Yeah, I know. I get the question. And yeah, I think, you know, the first thing is just recognizing that there's a problem. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are doing exactly what you're doing that are not recognizing the problem. So the first positive step is that you've recognized it. You know, the second thing is you really just have to break it down. You have to understand what things are going to match up. So the hi-hat and the bass drum, they've got to match up. I like to write my notation the way that we've actually got it on here, which is linearly, what I would call linearly, rather than writing the bass drums with the stems down. Yeah. The reason why I like to do that is because I like to see where the bass drum falls in relationship to the snare drum and in relationship to the hi-hat. I don't like to look at it and read it as another thing because I think that what he's talking about is symptomatic of that. So looking at music linearly like this, where everything lines up, you can see that you can more easily identify where that bass drum and hi-hat have got to line up, or if it's in between. And you can see on the page that it clearly falls in between the hi-hats. Yeah. So, you know, just breaking it down to the hi-hat and the bass drum. And, you know, the other thing is don't be so hard on yourself. You know, the object is not to be perfect. You know, I have not played perfectly so far. I could give you a short laundry list of things that I felt like I could have done better. but we're all human. We all do the best that we can, you know. I've never considered myself some sort of superhuman drummer, and there are definitely guys and girls out that are in that league, you know. I play things that are very common man, so I find that they're easy concepts to teach because it's just you're doing this just at a very high level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, more questions?
Yeah, more questions, absolutely. Nicola says, is the voicing that you're changing all on your right hand or only on your right hand?
You know, basically, yes. Unless you have a second bass drum or a second snare drum,
okay,
then you could certainly, you know, like there have been tours where I have changed all three voicings, where I've got, you know, a second. If you look down at the bass drum here, bass drum angle, I've actually got a second pedal over here that's a remote pedal controlling a bass drum over there. And so in that way, I would actually control a second voicing there, and then up here on the snare drum, I would actually have a second snare drum. So I could, you know, kind of and change the voicings all the way around. So if you have that kind of instrumentation, you can change the voicings. Other than that, yes, we are talking about just the right hand. Great question.
Good question, Nicola. Absolutely. Dexter Drummer says, hey guys, that a controlled snare Remo head? How do you make the snare sound so open with that type of head?
And you know, it's a little bit of tuning. I think that the CS head, and if you hear it without the snares on, you know, right now we've got some dampening on it. But the truth is that when you play any snare drum in the dead center, that's the driest place. If you get off center, it's going to ring a lot. So I'm playing the drum in the driest spot. I mean, you know, it's all about tuning the drum in a comfortable range. I just thought we were getting a little bit too much overring, so we put a little bit of dampening on here today. But, you know, the CS head is a head that you could really consider because it's an ambassador weight head with that reinforcing dot, which for me, if I just had, the way that I'm playing, if I just had an ambassador, I'd be going through an ambassador every show. Yeah. And the CS, I can leave on there for like a couple weeks.
Oh, wow, okay.
You know, and feel great about it. And of course, I've got CSs that are at my house that have been on there for years, and they sound great. Yeah. But, you know, we put them through a special torture out there on the road, and we're fortunate enough to have great sponsors like Remo that will keep them coming out there to us.
Cool. Scotty Aldridge has another question. He says, on number 3 and number 4 with the drags, are you concerned in this context with it being just a clean note drag, or is it a multiple buzz type of deal?
That's a fantastic question. And the answer is you can do it either way. Okay. You know, me coming from my kind of drum corps experience, I've got things very cleanly, you know. So for me, I've got a... But you can easily turn that into a multiple. It's a different physical move for me, but it has validity. I mean, you guys probably saw, some of you raise your hand if you saw it, the Stanton Moore stuff. I mean, you know, he's got, you know, he's got buzz rolls all over the place. Yeah. And so does he have some lessons sitting on the site right now?
He does, yep.
Fantastic educator, unbelievable player. If you can go see his band Galactic, definitely go do that.
We have a specific Drumeo course that he did specifically for Edge members too, and I don't think we've released it yet. It's coming out soon. If you're watching this in the archive, it probably is released, and it was all on New Orleans. Yeah. And he does that.
If you're watching us and this is 20 years from now, then yes, it's been released.
It's been released, well, exactly.
My life's going great right now, by the way, which is cool. Thanks for checking with me 20 years later.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. He has a new haircut then 20 years from now. I bet you it's going to be a new haircut 20 years from now.
Yeah, no hair.
Yeah, no hair maybe. Yan says, thank you, Jim, for coming to us again. Great lesson. I watched the first one so many times and practice with it. The same thing will be done with this one. Once it makes its way to the archives, I already see it. I wish you can come more often. Thanks so much. So
we will try to make that happen. Yeah. I think in the short term, I think we're looking at me coming up at the beginning of the year, next year, with a lot more information about my new book that you can look for which is a survival guide for the modern drummer. That's going to be on Alfred. If you're looking at this 20 years ago, then you know this is a best-selling book, and it's fantastic, and you own it. No, it's so stupid. No, I'll almost for sure be here at sometime in the first part of 2015.
I guess it would be.
Yeah. And after that, we're going to take a look at seeing if it's possible for me to do some remote stuff.
Satellite lessons.
Yeah. So
we have been talking.
We have been talking. We'll keep talking. So thank you for the suggestion. It's a good one.
Maddie Germany says, here's a great question for you. Did you record the Rascal Flatts version of Life is a Highway? I just listened to this song or learned this song and love what you did between the parts of the song with different elements that showed like you did at the beginning of the lesson. Did you record that song?
I did not record that. That was actually the very first thing that Dan Huff produced for Rascal Flatts. It was a special session. That is the very great Chris McHugh on that. Chris is a very busy session drummer in Nashville and did a great job. And, you know, like for me playing a song like that, you know, it's very easy for me to like cop some of the things that he did that were really great on it. But at the same time, with Rascal Flatts, we really tried to keep the music breathing. You know, so we try to not, there are certain acts out there, they're like, this is the way the record is, this is how it is, doesn't matter whether I played on it or someone else played on it, you know, they want it just like that. Rascal Flatts isn't like that. I mean, even from like, you know, brand new stuff, I mean, we're constantly trying to make it just a little bit better, let it breathe, let it do some different things, don't let it get stagnant. So as a result, I mean, there are parts that I do very different from that, but yet I try to hold to the essence of that recording because it's a very popular recording, and Chris did a fantastic job. And he's someone you can definitely look up on. He doesn't teach as much, but he's a great performer, and you can find some YouTube videos of him doing some clinics and some different live things. He's really great. Chris McHugh.
Cool. Just in Time has a question. This is a quick one. I'll just answer quickly. It says, about the PDF notation, what is the meaning of the brackets around some of the snare notes? That means it's a ghost note. Just play it quite a bit quieter, just like you showed already.
So the regular notes are this. The bracketed notes are that. So you got them juxtaposed. You got. It's a great way of notating those notes that are ghosts, and it's pretty standard.
Cool. Bunny Z 2013 says, Jim, you have some amazing drum work with Jay during this tour. You know what he's talking about there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Whose idea was that, and how would you rate Jay's drum skills?
No, this guy knows exactly what he's talking about.
Okay.
So in our show, we have two pretty unique elements this year.
Yeah.
The first one is that we've got the a cappella thing that I'll mention where we come out and do that. The second thing is since the first time since 2006, Jay and I are doing a double drum intro to the encore.
Okay.
So I would actually rate Jay's drum skills as good to very good. They're actually really, you know, Jay is an incredibly talented musician. When we started, you know, going out on the road with Rascal Flatts, you know, before when we were playing in the clubs, he was actually playing keyboards. He was band leader for other artists as a keyboard player. And when we went to the Rascal Flatts thing, he went to playing bass, and he's a fantastic bass player. So, you know, bass, keyboards, he's world class at those.
Yeah.
You know, guitar, he does a very nice job at rhythm guitar. You get to drums, he does a good to very good job. He can play. He does.
Awesome.
And so it's really fun kind of figuring out the things that he can do and he can't do. There's a drum solo that we did in the 2006 tour that I'm actually playing the big red sparkle drum set where we do a more expansive one. And then this year we have about a 16 bar intro, and it's a blast. We have fun playing it. It's actually an intro to the Motley Crue cover "Kickstart My Heart," which we're doing in the show, which we would be doing tonight if we were here, but we're not.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Literally right across the bridge. Like I could listen to that Rock and Music Fest, it's called. I can hear it from the studio, and he was going to be playing right across the bridge.
Which is why we thought, hey, this will be convenient. Why don't you just come over to Drumeo?
Yeah, I'll just drive across, pick you up.
Instead, I had to call him 2 days ago and say, yeah, we've had to cancel, which is very unfortunate. So so I just decided, I'd fly up if they were willing to have me. So here we are.
Of course, we're not going to say no to that. So
Yeah.
a couple more questions
Yeah.
before we wrap up. Okay, this is from Chris DW Freak. He says, hey guys, one thing I have to ask you, Jim, is how you can manage a family and professional drumming? I'm following you on Facebook, and I've seen that you are such a great family man. Do you have any tips on working a business like this and
Man.
family?
Well, you and I had this conversation a little bit.
Yeah.
I would say, at the level that I'm at, my number one challenge professionally is balance. Finding balance between, the gig that I'm playing with Rascal Flatts, the 30 students that I have every week that I'll be back with Monday, the drum line I'm teaching Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the writing I'm doing for the drum line, finishing my book and all the audio that's with my book, and finding time. I will say this, and this is, you'll understand this now that I've said that. I have not mowed my own lawn in 7 years because I just don't have time.
Yeah.
I don't have time, because if I say, well, everyone's got time, everyone's got an hour to mow the lawn, come on. Every hour that I'm not with my family, if I'm out mowing the lawn, that's one less hour that I'm with my family.
Yeah.
And that's the way I have to think about it.
Yeah.
And then if it's not time with my family, it's time teaching, and I make more money teaching than I do paying for the lawn. So it's like mathematically, it does not make sense. It's balance. Balance is the hardest thing, because there's nothing more important to me than my family. I've got 2 little girls and a little boy on the way, and nothing is more important to me than them and my wife. And so just finding balance, that's the challenging thing. And you understand, because you're thinking about it. It's very challenging.
Mowing the grass is a very therapeutic thing, though, too.
I loved it. I loved it. At my old house, before I was teaching all the time. See, that's the thing, is when I moved into my new house, moved into a bigger house, but it had a nice big basement, and it had a place to teach. So, I started teaching. But before, when I was in my old house, I even had like a big hill on it. I didn't mind doing it. I'd put some isolation headphones on and go out there and listen to tunes.
That's cool. Yeah. Okay, I am the drummer says, hey Jim, great set of hands. I am a rock type of music drummer in our church, and walked out on us, and my music pastor asked me to play, and I feel glad to help out, but I feel frustrated because the beats are so slow and challenging in praise and worship music. So I think what he meant to say there was the drummer walked out and he decided to fill in. So he asks, any advice? He says he feels frustrated because the beats are so slow and challenging in praise and worship. So any advice?
Yeah, well, really dig into the music. Try to find original recordings of what, the group is trying to emulate. And, with every type of drumming, I know that Drumeo has scoured the earth to try to find drummers that do that, whether it's gospel players, whether it's speed metal players, or jazz players. But the one thing that I would want for all of you is to actually try to do a little less classification of yourself. I don't think of myself, and I think, after watching me, you can understand, I don't think of myself as a country drummer,
absolutely,
or a rock drummer, or a jazz drummer, or a Latin drummer, or a metal drummer. I think of myself as a working drummer. And if I want to work for a living, I have to be able to play all styles. And so I think what you're experiencing is, you might be really, used to playing in some kind of high energy, fast rock stuff, and you get back to the praise and worship type stuff, and I think what you're experiencing is that it's very difficult to have that discipline. So that's what you have to work on. So right before, when you get to church, stop and pray for discipline.
There you go.
Try to get a little bit of clarity on that. Just say, I hope that I can get to a point where it feels really great to just play a simple groove, and you have to learn to appreciate the awesomeness of just a very simple groove. And I think that this is going to be a very good experience for you.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Last question.
Yeah.
Okay. Brandon Smith says, hey, Jim. Brandon from Columbus here. Good to see you. He says, speaking of the snare drum, those snares are really lively. Do you run into snare buzz with the toms? And is that a concern when you are recording?
Great question to both. I have people that will, like listen to a drum and go. Now, right now, we're kind of away from it. Now, it's all about resonance. Like, I took a musical acoustics class in college. And when the snares buzz, it's because the tom is tuned to either the same note or a frequency in range of the octave, fifth, fourth, or in that range that's going to make it ring sympathetically. It's very simple. You sit here and go, ooh. So, so different notes will actually cause the snares to react more or less. So if you're looking for less sympathetic resonance, you can try changing the tuning of your drums. But the better question is that a concern?
Yeah.
And the answer is no. It's not a concern because we try to think about the drum set in a recording environment as one big unit. And that's just part of the beast,
Yeah.
The snares, ring and it's just okay. It's not a very big concern. Now, if there's a crazy thing going on where you hit that tom and it's like zzz, it's very simple. You just need to change the tuning of either your bottom head or the bottom head of your tom, or maybe even just the top head of your tom, and you'll be surprised how just going a half step away from it will get you away from the sympathetic resonance there. Excellent observation, excellent question.
I love that answer. I've never heard it answered like that. And we get that question quite a bit here. I mean, it's a thing that annoys a lot of people.
It's all about sympathetic resonance.
Yeah.
Try not to let it bother you so much.
Cool. Okay, so we'll wrap it up there.
Do you want to do something crazy?
I want you to play something one more time, another play along. But before you do that, I just want to kind of give the wrap up. Hey, first off, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
It's a blast. If you guys like what you saw here, we have a whole course that we are filming on expanding your vocabulary as drummers. It's unbelievable what we've been doing. Probably about 2-3 times the size of this, but that's only included in Drumeo Edge. So if you do like this, check out drumeo.com. And if you want a free trial, drumeo.com/trial. You get a 30-day free membership. Check it out, see what you think. If you like what Jim's doing, check out JimRileyMusic.com. He's got a new product that's coming out at the end of the year called Survival Guide for the Modern Drummer.
With Alfred
Publishing. And it's going to have 150 to 200 play-alongs.
Yeah, it's got an insane amount from rock stuff to country stuff. We have plans in the near future to do a thing on train beats, and you just wouldn't imagine, the variations from doing doubles in a train beat, paradiddles. There's a million things in there, and like with my book, one of the things I'm trying to do is not only cover the bases that have been covered in books, but try to cover some bases that never get like metal and country, right? Metal and country. No one ever writes about them in books unless it's a metal book or a country book, because it gets marginalized in educational circles.
I agree.
So I go from pop to blues to rock to country to metal to fusion to dance to world, jazz, you name it. Yeah. And it's exhaustive and it's a lot of work, but that's what I'm working on.
JimRileyMusic.com for all the updates on there. Thank you again, Jim, for coming out. What are you going to play us out with?
I'm going to play you a tune that I wrote with a friend of mine named Jeff Sheets. Actually, no, excuse me. I wrote it for Jeff Sheets. This is a song that I wrote for myself. I wrote for his record. It's a record called Pawn Shop. It's actually still a pretty good record. Jeff Sheets. You can find Jeff Sheets Pawn Shop. This is a tune that Jeff was nice enough to remix for me, take all the guitar solos out, leave us room for drum solos. So this is a tune that I wrote called Legend. I'm going to tell you real quick about it. There's a pattern here where it's 3 measures of 7 1 measure of 12, 3 measure of 7, 1 measure of 12. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the first section. The very last section of this song actually is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And that's the alternating pattern for the end of the song. So you'll definitely hear that. Like I said, this is a song called Legend, and I just want to thank Drumeo for having me once again.
Anytime,
and I
man.
encourage you all to take them up on the free trial and see all the benefits of Drumeo Edge, and you can see my new lesson as well as Stanton's new lesson and your lessons and Steven's lessons, everybody.
And your original lesson on grooves or fills that work too.
Yeah, which is a fun lesson. So here we go. This is Legend. Thank you so much.
See you guys all later.